All right, let's dive into a classic story that's all about faith, a bit of desperation, and a really powerful, ironic twist. We're talking about A Letter to God. They always say that faith can move mountains. But this story, it really makes you stop and ask a pretty tough question. What, or maybe who, should we really be putting our faith in when things get rough?
To even start to answer that, we first have to meet our main character. He's a farmer, his name is Lencho, and his faith is, well, pretty incredible.
Okay, so picture this guy. Lencho is described as an ox of a man, meaning he is seriously hardworking, out in his fields day in and day out. He lives a simple life, all by himself on a small hill, but the most important thing to know about Lencho is that his faith in God is just absolute, unflinching. Oh, and here's the key detail. For a farmer in his time, it's pretty surprising, but he knows how to write. As our story kicks off, Lencho is hopeful. His crops desperately need a good rain. And when it finally starts to fall, he doesn't just see water. He sees money. He literally calls the big raindrops 10-cent pieces and the little ones fives. For him, this is prosperity falling right out of the sky. And then, just like that, everything changes. That beautiful, promising rain turns into a nightmare, a vicious hailstorm. For a solid hour, ice just hammers his fields, destroying everything. The image the story paints is so powerful. His field was left completely white, as if covered with salt. Just total devastation. Standing there in the middle of his ruined farm, Lencho is just heartbroken. He says that even a swarm of locusts would have left more behind. The hail wiped out everything. Their entire year's work, gone. But in the face of that total disaster, Lencho's powerful faith leads him to do something pretty unconventional. Let's see what happens next. Lencho figures out exactly what he needs to restart his farm and keep his family fed until the next harvest. He needs 100 pesos. And this is where the story gets its name. He sits down and he writes a letter, not to a bank, not to a relative, but to God. He explains what happened with the hailstorm and straight up asks for the 100 pesos. He seals it, and on the envelope he just writes, "To God." So Lencho actually goes and mails the letter. And this is where the story takes a fascinating turn, because now we meet the postmaster. When the postmaster sees this letter, his first reaction is probably what yours or mine would be. He just bursts out laughing. I mean, come on. But then, almost immediately, the laughter stops. It hits him. He's just completely awestruck by the kind of faith a person must have to do something like this. Now, this postmaster, he's a good dude. The story tells us he's kind and compassionate. And seeing this letter, he makes a decision right then and there. He decides he absolutely cannot let this man's amazing faith be crushed. He has to do something. So he puts a plan into action. He goes to his employees and asks them to chip in. He gives a chunk of his own salary. He even convinces some friends to contribute to what he calls an act of charity. His new mission is to answer that letter himself on behalf of God. So the plan works. The postmaster gets the money together and sends it off to Lencho. But the outcome? Yeah, it is not what anyone expected. And this is where that gut punch of irony comes in. Despite all his efforts, the postmaster just couldn't raise the full 100 pesos. He managed to collect 70. He puts the 70 pesos into an envelope and signs the letter with just a single word: God. So Lencho comes back to the post office, gets the letter, and he's not even a little bit surprised. I mean, his faith is so pure, he just expected to hear back from God. But when he opens it and counts the money, he doesn't feel relief. He feels anger. And here it is, the incredible twist. Lencho is certain that God wouldn't make a mistake or shortchange him. So he comes to a different conclusion. The post office employees must have stolen the missing 30 pesos. He immediately writes a second letter asking God for the rest of the money, but begs him not to send it by mail because, in his words, the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. Wow. Just wow. What are we supposed to take away from a story like that? Let's break down the deeper messages about faith, about people, and about how we see the world. You can really see two big conflicts here. The first is pretty straightforward. It's human versus nature, with the hailstorm just destroying Lencho's crops. But the deeper, more painful conflict is human versus human. It's the conflict that comes from Lencho's complete distrust of the very people who actually showed him incredible kindness. Lencho's faith is powerful, no doubt. But you could also call it a kind of blind faith. It's so absolute that it makes him unable to see the goodness in people right in front of him. It's a perfect illustration of how faith, when it isn't balanced with a little bit of reason, can lead you to completely misjudge a situation and miss the help you were asking for. So, what are the big lessons here? Well, it's a huge reminder to try and balance our faith with reason. It shows us that sometimes the help we're praying for shows up in the form of other people. And more than anything, it's a powerful story about the importance of gratitude. And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to think about. Who really had the truer faith in the end? Was it Lencho, the man who believed so strongly in God? Or was it the postmaster, who had enough faith in humanity and in the idea of faith itself to perform such a selfless act of kindness? It really makes you wonder.